Chosen one, do you ever wonder why you were pulled away from everything and everyone? Why the silence in your life got louder just as your prayers became more desperate? It wasn't abandonment. It was a sacred summons. The isolation you feel isn't a punishment. It's preparation. God didn't forget you. He hid you. And this message is the confirmation your soul has been waiting for. You see, chosen one, when God sets you apart, He doesn't do it in public. He does it in the wilderness. He removes your comfort. He separates you from the noise, from the distractions, from the people who were never meant to walk with you into your destiny. And in that sacred stillness, where it feels like no one sees you, God begins the deepest kind of transformation. You weren't rejected. You were recruited. And the quiet was never empty. It was holy. Some people think isolation is loneliness, but for the chosen, it's consecration. What feels like exile is really a divine encounter in disguise. When others walked away, it wasn't because you weren't good enough. It was because your spirit started carrying a weight they couldn't bear. You began shifting in ways they couldn't understand. Heaven placed something on your life that forced separation, and I know it hurt. I know it made you question your worth, your purpose, your very identity. But let me tell you the truth, that the enemy tried to bury under your tears. Your isolation was intentional. God didn't leave you. He led you into caves, into silence, into a season of sacred undoing. He stripped away the applause. He allowed misunderstandings. He even let your phone stop ringing so you could hear one voice clearly, His, because what He's building in you requires a foundation that no man can interfere with. You are not being hidden because you're weak. You're being preserved because you're chosen. Think of David. Before he ever held a crown, he held a harp in the fields, alone, singing to sheep, ignored by men, but anointed by God. His isolation wasn't insignificance, it was intimacy. He was learning the cadence of heaven in secret, so he could carry the authority of the throne in public. That's you, chosen one. Your private suffering is preparing you for public glory. But it takes time, and it takes isolation. You've been feeling like nobody gets you, like every connection you try to make ends in distance, like your heart keeps giving, but nobody stays. That's not coincidence. That's calibration. God is adjusting your circle so your calling won't be compromised. He's removing access from those who could taint the oil on your life. It's not about who you're losing. It's about what you're gaining. Spiritual sensitivity, discernment, resilience, unshakable peace. Yes, peace, even in the wilderness. You may not realize it, but what you're going through is sacred. The tears you cried at 2 a.m. weren't wasted. Heaven caught everyone. The prayers you whispered into the dark, they weren't echoes. They were seeds. And chosen one, I came to tell you, they're starting to sprout. Not in ways the world can see yet, but in your soul. Your faith is stretching. Your roots are deepening. You're no longer who you were a year ago. Even if no one's applauding your growth, God isn't interested in applause. He's interested in authenticity. That's why He placed you in the quiet, so you'd learn the sound of His Spirit, so you'd stop looking for validation in places that could never understand the weight you carry, so you'd stop tying your identity to rooms that could never hold your anointing. You don't fit in because you're not meant to blend in. You were handpicked to stand apart. You feel unseen, but you are deeply known. You feel forgotten, but you are divinely favored. You feel alone, but you are surrounded by angels. That ache in your spirit, it's not despair. It's divine dissatisfaction. It's heaven stirring you, reminding you that you weren't made to live a normal life, reminding you that you carry something eternal, that your voice isn't just for conversation, it's for declaration, that your hands aren't just for work, they're for warfare, that your heart isn't just soft, it's sacred. Chosen one, do you understand what's happening to you? You're being refined. Not everyone can survive the fire of refinement, but you were built for it. You were wired for wilderness seasons. You were born with spiritual stamina. That's why it feels so hard right now, because you're walking through the place where most people quit. You're facing the silence that causes others to compromise, but you won't, because deep down, even through the pain, you know there's purpose. That's the paradox of isolation. It looks like stillness, but it's actually movement, internal movement, spiritual acceleration, the kind that doesn't make headlines, but makes heaven stand still. And here's the part most people miss. Isolation is the training ground for the supernatural. When God isolates you, He teaches you to depend on Him for everything. Your peace, your clarity, your identity. He removes the props. He removes the noise. He removes the people who make you feel good, but keep you spiritually weak. And in that vacuum of familiarity, He teaches you to hear Him with precision. Chosen one, you're not crazy for hearing what others can't hear. You're not broken for feeling what others ignore. You're not too sensitive. You're spiritually awake. This is your consecration season. This is your sacred stretching. This is the hidden place where prophets are forged and warriors are born, not through crowds, not through comfort, but through silence, through fire, through obedience. And let me tell you this, the oil that's coming from this season, it will be weighty, it will be costly, but it will carry heaven's signature. And when the time is right, when God opens the door, no man will be able to deny the authority on your life, because it will be evident that it came from the secret place, not the spotlight. Chosen one, stay in the wilderness a little longer. Don't fight the isolation. Don't rush the process. You're not behind. You're being built. Chosen one, I see how tired you are, not just in your body, but in your soul. You've been carrying this invisible weight for so long, trying to keep smiling, trying to stay hopeful, trying to pretend like the silence doesn't scream at you in the middle of the night. But I need you to know something. Your exhaustion is not a sign of weakness. It's evidence of the battle you've been fighting in the spirit realm. Because this isn't just about what's happening in your life. It's about what's shifting in your spirit. You see, when God calls someone, He doesn't start by giving them a platform. He starts by breaking them open. And breaking doesn't mean you're ruined. It means you're being poured. You're being emptied of pride, of performance, of people-pleasing, of counterfeit attachments, so you can be filled with power, purpose, and purity. And that process is painful, but it's holy. The wilderness strips you of everything you thought you needed, so you can discover that all you ever truly needed was Him. I know you didn't ask for this. You didn't ask to be chosen. You didn't ask to be different. But deep down, even as a child, you knew you didn't see the world like everyone else. You felt things others ignored. You questioned things no one else dared to ask. You felt a restlessness in your spirit that nothing could satisfy. That wasn't confusion. That was calling. That was your soul waking up to the divine DNA running through your veins. And now it's time to face it. Chosen one, this is not just a season. It's a spiritual shift. God is not trying to hurt you. He's trying to show you what's been hidden inside you this whole time. You are not who you used to be. You are being stretched beyond your natural limits. And with that stretching comes isolation, not because God is punishing you, but because He's preparing you for intimacy with Him that can't be forged in the crowd. This is where oil is made, in silence, in solitude, in surrender. You've asked, God, where is everyone? Why did they leave? Why can't I connect the way I used to? And His answer is this: because I'm removing the scaffolding. I'm teaching you to walk with me and me alone. I'm teaching you to discern my whisper in the quiet. I'm making you whole, not through applause, but through encounter. The ones He calls, He consecrates, He cleanses, He separates. Moses was alone on the mountain. Elijah was alone in the cave. Joseph was alone in the prison. Jesus Himself was alone in the garden. So don't think you're cursed because you're walking alone. You're walking a path few will ever understand. But all of heaven is watching. They're watching how you keep showing up in prayer when nobody sees. They're watching how you keep worshiping when the answers don't come. They're watching how you keep obeying when it feels like it's costing you everything. Chosen one, the crowd is not your confirmation. Obedience is. God is pleased with you, even if no one else affirms you. He sees you when you wipe your tears before anyone notices. He hears the prayers you can't even put into words. He understands the ache you carry that no one else has language for, because He put it there. That ache is not a curse. It's a compass. It's what keeps you longing for more. It's what keeps you from settling for average. It's what keeps you spiritually alive in a world that's spiritually asleep. You are not meant for a shallow life. You are not called to blend in. You are marked. You are different. You are holy. And yes, being holy feels heavy sometimes, because when you carry the weight of a prophetic calling, you don't get the luxury of living like everyone else. You're not allowed to numb yourself with distractions. You can't ignore conviction. You can't stay in places where your spirit doesn't breathe. You feel things intensely. You walk away from conversations that grieve your soul. You turn off entertainment that pollutes your peace. And you wonder, why can't I just be normal? Because you were never created for normal. You were created for the sacred. You've been asking, God, when will this end? When will the isolation break? But what if I told you the question isn't when, but what? What is God building in you right now that requires you to be still? What strength is being forged in the silence? What gifts are being awakened in the absence of applause? Because when you come out of this, you won't be the same. You'll speak with authority. You'll walk with clarity. You'll carry healing in your words. You'll have insight that shocks people, and they'll wonder, where did this come from? It came from here, from the cave, from the quiet, from the sacred training ground of isolation. Chosen one, don't despise your hiding place. God hides those He loves. He hides the treasure, so it's not stolen prematurely. He hides the oil, so it's not wasted on those who can't honor it. He hides the vision until it matures. He hides you, not to punish you, but to protect what He's doing in you. You are not stuck. You are being safeguarded. You are not forgotten. You are being forged. You are not being overlooked. You are being overshadowed by His hand, His presence, His purpose. And I know it's tempting to step out too soon, to post what God whispered, to explain yourself to those who don't understand, to prove your growth. But don't do it. Let God unveil you when the time is right. Let Him be the one who brings you forth, not pride or pressure, because when He reveals you, it will be undeniable. It will be sealed in glory, not desperation. So hold your position. Keep your posture of humility. Stay in the secret place. The training ground isn't forever, but it is necessary. And if you surrender to it, it will change everything. Chosen one, I can feel it. The weight you carry in the silence. It's not just the absence of people. It's the ache of being misunderstood. The sting of pouring your heart out only to be met with silence. The loneliness that doesn't go away even when you're surrounded by others. You've been trying to figure out what you did wrong, when in truth, it was never about what you did. It was about what you're called to become. Because when heaven calls someone higher, it first calls them away from the noise, away from the crowds, away from anything that would dilute the purity of what God is depositing into them. And that's what's been happening to you. You're not just being separated from people, you're being separated unto God for something sacred, something eternal, something weighty. The wilderness is not a detour, it's the design. And I know it's not glamorous, it's not easy. You're sitting in spaces where no one seems to see the fire inside you. You're serving in silence, giving without applause, enduring without recognition. And sometimes it feels like your efforts are invisible. But chosen one, heaven sees, God sees, and He's using every hidden act of obedience to train your spirit for something greater than you can imagine. This is not about visibility, it's about capacity. God is expanding you in the dark, stretching your spirit, enlarging your heart, tearing down the old wineskin so He can pour in new wine. The breaking you feel is not destruction, it's preparation. He's hollowing out your soul so His glory can take residence. You don't just carry gifting, you carry glory. And glory is weighty. That's why you can't walk like everyone else. You can't partner with just anyone. You can't remain in environments that starve your spirit. It's why conversations that once entertained you now grieve you. It's why things that used to satisfy now leave you feeling empty. Because your spirit is awakening. And with awakening comes separation. God is not being cruel. He's being careful. He's keeping you hidden because the anointing on your life is too valuable to be wasted in premature exposure. He's shielding you until you're strong enough to carry the weight of your calling without breaking under it. Think about it. When gold is refined, it doesn't cry out in the fire. It simply yields. And as the impurities rise and are scraped away, the gold becomes more pure, more precious, more prepared for purpose. That's you, chosen one. You are in the fire, not to be consumed, but to be clarified, refined, purified. Your isolation is the furnace where the false things are falling off of you. The insecurity, the need for approval, the fear of rejection, the desire to be understood by people who were never meant to carry your vision. It's all being burned away. And I know it hurts. I know you've questioned if you're crazy. You've wrestled in the middle of the night, asking God, why am I still here? Why is nothing moving? Why do I feel like I'm the only one standing still while the world moves on? But heaven would say this to you. You are not stuck. You are being still. And there is a difference. Stuck is a place of despair. Still is a posture of trust. And trust is what this season is all about. God is teaching you to trust Him beyond your feelings, beyond your timeline, beyond what you see. He's teaching you to walk by faith, not by sight. He's teaching you that even when it feels like nothing is happening, everything is happening. In the silence, your discernment is being sharpened. In the waiting, your faith is being forged. In the stillness, your soul is being strengthened. And when the time comes, when God says move, you'll do so with power, not panic, with clarity, not confusion, with purpose, not pressure, but you'll only move like that because of this sacred stillness. So don't curse the quiet. Don't despise the hidden season. Don't wish away the wilderness. God is doing more in you than you can see. The roots are growing deeper than the fruit is showing. And when the time is right, when heaven has completed the work inside of you, the doors will open, the platforms will come, the appointments will align, but by then you won't be desperate for them because you'll know your value never came from what you do. It came from who you are and whose you are. You've been marked by God, and the mark is not always visible to man, but the spirit world sees it. Hell recognizes it, and that's why the warfare has been so intense. That's why the enemy keeps whispering lies to you in the dark. He knows what's coming. He knows what's inside of you, and he's terrified of the moment you realize it too. But you are beginning to realize it, aren't you? You're beginning to understand that your tears were birthing something sacred, that your wilderness wasn't a mistake. It was a meeting place, that your loneliness wasn't an abandonment. It was an altar. And what you laid down on that altar, your dreams, your plans, your relationships, God has seen it all. And He is not unjust to forget the cost. The isolation you endured in obedience is storing up an inheritance in the spirit that cannot be measured by earthly standards. So, stand firm, chosen one. Let the silence continue to sanctify you. Let the hidden place shape your character. Let the wilderness teach you how to walk. Slowly, humbly, deeply, with God. You are in the most sacred place a soul can be, the center of God's refining fire. And when you emerge from it, you won't just have a testimony, you'll carry transformation. Chosen one, the fire is still hot, and the silence still deep. But don't you see? This is where the Spirit does His most powerful work, not in the crowd, not in the noise, but in the hidden furnace of becoming. And you, chosen one, are being forged for glory. There's a sound your life will carry that cannot be imitated, because it was born in the places no one else dared to stay. Others visit the wilderness and run when it gets too quiet. But you stayed, even when it made no sense, even when it broke your heart, even when all you could do was whisper, God, I trust you, through the shaking of your soul. That trust, that surrender, that trembling yes in the dark, it echoed in heaven, louder than any sermon, louder than any song, because God listens for the sound of obedience. And your obedience in the isolation has become a fragrance before the throne. You think no one sees what you're carrying. You think no one knows how many times you've laid your dreams on the altar and walked away with nothing but tears. But God saw every tear. chosen one. And he didn't just collect them, he sanctified them. He turned them into oil, the very oil that will heal others one day. That's why it hurts so deeply, because what God is forming in you is meant to carry healing, not just for yourself, but for generations. That's why he had to separate you, because the pain you're walking through is the same pain you'll speak to. The same chains you're breaking will be the ones you'll shatter for others. The same loneliness you've endured will become the place from which you draw empathy, wisdom, and supernatural discernment. You were not isolated for suffering's sake. You were set apart for service, for sacred strategy, for spiritual power that cannot be gained in the comfort zones. And yes, it cost you. It cost you comfort, relationships, the illusion of control. But chosen one, the price you paid in isolation is birthing an anointing that can't be faked. You'll walk into rooms and carry a weight that causes demons to tremble, not because you're loud, but because you're anchored, because the winds that tried to break you only made you bow deeper, because the storms that were supposed to destroy you only taught you how to cling to the hem of his garment when all else was stripped away. That's what this training ground has been about. Learning how to hold on to God when there's nothing else to hold. Learning how to discern his whisper when the world goes silent. Learning how to be still and know that he is God, not just when everything is going well, but when everything is falling apart and all you have left is faith. And oh, chosen one, what a mighty thing that faith has become. It doesn't look like much to others. They don't see the battle scars. They don't know the nights you wept until your soul went numb. They don't see the times you chose purity over pleasure, surrender over survival, worship over worry. But heaven saw, heaven counted every moment, and there is a harvest coming, not just in things, not just in opportunities, but in clarity, in authority, in joy that no man can take, in peace that surpasses understanding, in the kind of discernment that can look someone in the eye and see their pain because you've lived through it. That's what makes you dangerous to darkness. Not your platform, but your purity. Not your gifting, but your history with God. Not your eloquence, but your endurance. The wilderness has been your teacher, your filter, your proving ground. And while others are still trying to figure out how you made it this far, you already know the answer. Grace. Grace kept you when you didn't want to be kept. Grace held your hand when the path was too foggy to see. Grace interceded for you when you didn't have the strength to pray. And now, grace is preparing to release you. Slowly, gently, sovereignly, but not until the work is complete. Not until your spirit is fully aligned with the mantle you're about to carry. Not until your soul has been washed clean of every need to be seen, every craving for validation, every impulse to prove yourself to people who never saw your worth. This is holy preparation, a kind that cannot be rushed. And I know you feel the tension, the stretching between who you were and who you are becoming. You feel the ache of what's breaking off and the excitement of what's being birthed. But don't rush it, chosen one. Don't shortcut the silence. Don't numb the pain. Let it do its work. Let it sanctify you. Let it break every idol and burn every false identity. Because when you come out of this, and you will come out of this, you won't be who you were. You'll be fire-tested, spirit-led, and glory-marked. You'll carry a sound, a weight, a knowing that no man can give and no devil can steal. And when you speak, chains will break, not because of your words, but because of the altar your life has become. Chosen one, you're not being punished, you're being prepared. And the silence is not rejection, it's reverence. God is speaking in this stillness. Are you listening? Chosen one, lean in. Don't let your heart grow numb in this final stretch. The weariness you feel right now is not the end. It's transition. You're on holy ground, even if it feels like cracked earth beneath your feet. You've been walking so long in silence that you've almost forgotten what it feels like to be understood. But hear this. God has understood you every step of the way. And not just understood, you've been upheld, carried, hidden in the shadow of His wings, while He rebuilt what the world broke. That ache in your chest, the pressure behind your eyes, the tears you don't even have the energy to release anymore. All of it, seen, known, counted. What you're feeling right now, chosen one, is the groaning of your spirit as heaven prepares to lift you from the cave into the calling. You don't even realize how much has changed inside you. You look in the mirror and still see the cracks, the flaws, the limp. But God sees the gold. God sees the weight of wisdom in your silence. He sees the strength in your restraint. He sees the purity in your yes, the courage in your no, and the holiness in your waiting. He sees the altar you've become. You see, the world teaches you to run to stages, to fight for recognition, to gather applause like oxygen. But heaven trains you differently. Heaven says, come away, be still, let me shape you when no one is watching. And that's exactly what He's done. Your seasons of isolation were not empty, they were sacred. You were in the hands of the potter, turning slowly, painfully, perfectly. You weren't being forgotten. You were being formed. And now, the oil is ready. Yes, chosen one, the oil. The kind that doesn't come from gifting, but from crushing. The kind that doesn't come from talent, but from tears. The kind that carries weight in the spirit because it was purchased in private pain. That's what's on you now, and you don't need to prove it. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to rush into rooms trying to convince anyone of your anointing. The ones who are aligned with heaven will recognize it without you saying a word, because the glory speaks for itself. But I must tell you this, the glory will cost you. And if you're truly chosen, you already know that. You've already paid prices that others will never see. You've bled silently for battles that had no audience. You've died to dreams, surrendered control, laid down desires that burned like fire in your bones. All because the voice of the Spirit whispered, wait, trust me, not yet. And you obeyed, even when it hurt, even when it cost you friendships, opportunities, comfort. That obedience has become the foundation of your next season. Because here's the truth. Chosen one, God only elevates what has been emptied. And you, oh, you have been emptied. You've been poured out in secret, so God could fill you in glory. You've been emptied of false identities, so you could walk in holy authority. You've been stripped of attachments, so you could be saturated with the anointing. You've been emptied to carry heaven, and now you carry it, not as a trophy, but as a vessel. You carry peace in your silence. You carry fire in your whisper. You carry discernment in your pause. You carry authority in your steps. You carry healing in your presence. You are not who you were. You don't move like the crowd because you were called out of it. You don't crave what they crave because you've tasted the weight of glory. You don't cling to shallow things because you've touched eternity. You're different, and that difference is divine. Chosen one, I know you still wrestle with moments of doubt. I know there are nights you stare at the ceiling, wondering if you'll ever feel whole again. But you are not broken. You are breaking through, and breakthrough never feels like a celebration at first. It feels like exhaustion. It feels like grief. It feels like pressing through when everything in you wants to quit. But don't quit now. You're closer than you've ever been. Not closer to a platform, but closer to purpose. Not closer to applause, but closer to alignment. Not closer to being seen, but closer to being known by God in a way few ever are. The fire has not destroyed you. It has refined you. The silence has not emptied you. It has sanctified you. The wilderness has not weakened you. It has weaponized you. You are no longer who you used to be, and you'll never be that person again. What's rising in you now is rare. It's holy. It's prophetic. And it cannot be packaged. It cannot be rushed. It cannot be sold. It's sacred. And when God sends you back into the world, into people, into purpose, you will move differently. You won't beg to be seen. You won't shrink to be accepted. You won't mold yourself to fit in spaces that make your spirit small. You will walk with fire in your eyes and compassion in your hands. You will speak with a voice that carries thunder, but drips with honey. You will love boldly, heal gently, and intercede relentlessly. Because you were trained in the quiet, you were anointed in the ache, you were chosen in the crushing. And now it's time to rise. Chosen one, rise gently, rise slowly, rise not in pride, but in reverence, for this is holy ground, and your soul knows it. After all the weeping, the wondering, the wandering, you are still here, and not just here in body, but here in spirit, still listening, still longing, still reaching for the God who never once left your side. And though the pain has been great, the presence of the Lord has been greater still. There were nights you didn't feel Him, didn't hear Him, didn't sense even the faintest trace of His nearness. But He was there. My God, He was there, holding your soul together when your mind was unraveling, whispering to your spirit while your flesh was breaking. Heaven watched you press forward, barefoot, bruised, breathless, and called it beautiful. You didn't quit. You didn't fold. You didn't sell your soul for temporary comfort. And heaven honors that. You may not have heard applause, but angels rejoiced. You may not have felt embraced, but the Spirit wrapped Himself around you in every moment you thought you were perishing. Because the training ground doesn't just build you, it covers you. It doesn't just stretch you, it shields you. You have been protected in ways you don't even know. That car you didn't take, that job you didn't get, that relationship that fell apart, it wasn't rejection, it was redirection. Every closed door was heaven saying, "Not this way, my child. I'm leading you higher, and higher is where you're going, chosen one." But not in the way the world defines it. Your rise isn't for clout, it's for kingdom. Your elevation isn't to impress, it's to intercede. God is positioning you where influence intersects with intercession, where visibility is only the vehicle and not the destination, where your life becomes a living altar that draws people not to you, but to Him. And that's why the process was so intense, because your life is not a stage, it's a sanctuary. You've been called to host the weight of glory, and you can't fake that. You can't manufacture oil. You can't counterfeit fire. You can't perform power. What flows through you now was birthed in agony, in nights when your body shook from the burden, in mornings when your smile was a mask and your heart a battlefield. You've ministered to others while bleeding internally. You've spoken hope while privately wondering if yours was gone. And still, you stood. You stood. And now, the winds are shifting. Not all at once, but slowly, gently, like the stirring of waters in a pool no one's touched for years. Something deep is awakening. You feel it, don't you? That flutter in your chest that feels like prophecy wrapped in peace. That sense that your waiting hasn't been in vain. That every wilderness has a threshold, and you're standing right at it. But don't rush past this moment. Let it mark you. Let it sink deep into your marrow. That you were chosen not for comfort, but for covenant. Not for performance, but for presence. Not for speed, but for sacredness. And the sacred things take time. Look at the life you've lived, chosen one. Look at how many times you've died to self just to be true to the whisper. Look at how many times you've walked away from easy roads, seductive shortcuts, and glittering traps. All because something in your spirit wouldn't let you settle. That wasn't rebellion. That was reverence. That wasn't stubbornness. That was sensitivity. You are sensitive because you were designed to discern what others overlook. And that's your gift, not your flaw. They told you you're too intense, too deep, too serious, too emotional. But heaven says, you're tuned in. You're awake. You're exactly who I called you to be. You've been made to feel too much because you were meant to carry what others cannot. You were made to walk softly where others run blindly. You were crafted to feel heaven's heart, even when it breaks your own. And now, you are beginning to walk in that truth, not as a burden, but as a blessing. You don't need validation anymore. You don't need the crowd's applause to know your worth. You don't crave what you once craved. That's how you know you've been transformed. That's how you know the isolation worked. It didn't just refine you, it rewrote you. You are no longer defined by the wounds. You are defined by the worship that came from them. And your worship now, it's different. It's deeper. It's drenched in oil. It's soaked in scars. It's born from a place no one else can access. That kind of worship shakes atmospheres. That kind of worship breaks generational chains. That kind of worship touches the heart of God. So worship, even here, even if the doors haven't opened yet, even if the promise hasn't fully manifested, even if no one sees the anointing you carry, worship anyway. Because worship is your warfare. Worship is your witness. Worship is your weapon, and you've been trained in the silence to wield it with precision. You are not a victim of your isolation. You are a vessel of the Spirit. You have graduated from the wilderness, not with a diploma, but with fire in your bones. You don't need to announce it. The atmosphere will recognize it. Demons will respond to it. The heavens will align for it. Because what's on your life didn't come from man. It came from the mountain. And what is birthed on the mountain cannot be stopped in the valley. Chosen one, your time is near. Chosen one, breathe. You're on the edge of something sacred. You can feel it in your spirit. That weight in the air. The holy tension between what was and what is about to be. It's not anxiety. It's not fear. It's heaven preparing you to step into the fulfillment of everything the wilderness was shaping you for. You've walked through fire. You've sat in silence. You've prayed prayers that had no words, and waited in places that tested your soul. And now, the atmosphere is pregnant with breakthrough. But listen closely. The final moments before release are always the most intense. This is the moment where the enemy tries one last time to make you question everything. He'll whisper lies soaked in logic. He'll show you others getting ahead. He'll tempt you to shrink back into smallness or run toward counterfeit doors that open too easily. Don't fall for it. The pressure is proof. The weight is a signal. The intensity of this hour confirms how close you truly are. It means the birthing is near. And birthing is bloody. Birthing is noisy. Birthing is painful. But birthing is holy. Don't resent the pain. Don't mislabel the pressure. This is sacred travail. The same God who impregnated your spirit with vision is now preparing the spiritual contractions to bring it forth. But it has to come through purity. It has to come through obedience. It has to come through the same silence that carried you this far. This is not a time to reach back for comfort. This is the time to push. Push through the self-doubt. Push through the fear. Push through the fatigue. Push through the fact that no one clapped for your growth. Because God is not looking for noise. He's looking for weight. And weight comes from wilderness. Authority comes from crushing. Revelation comes from isolation. You have walked through all three. You are not the same person who entered this cave. You are no longer swayed by shallow things. You are no longer chasing fleeting approval. You are no longer compromising just to feel loved, because you finally know you are loved, not for what you perform, not for how you're perceived, but simply because you were chosen. Let that settle in your bones. Chosen one. You were chosen before the success, chosen before the failures, chosen before the wilderness ever became your address. You were marked from your mother's womb, not to fit in, but to carry what others could not. And that's why your life has felt heavier. That's why the warfare has been more intense. That's why you've always felt like you were fighting battles others didn't even see. Because your battles were never about your past. They were about your purpose. The enemy saw the oil before you did. He saw the fire being lit in secret. He saw what you would become if you ever endured the isolation. And now you have. And there is nothing more terrifying to the enemy than a chosen one who made it through the crushing and came out still carrying the cross. You didn't lose your fire. It was purified. You didn't lose your voice. It was sharpened. You didn't lose your faith. It was anchored. And now, with that fire, that voice, that anchored faith, you are ready, not to be elevated by man, but to be unveiled by God. And when He unveils you, it won't be for entertainment. It will be for impact. It won't be to impress. It will be to ignite. You are a carrier of holy fire now, and fire does not negotiate with darkness. It consumes it. That's why you've been hidden, because God was preparing you to be an answer in a world full of noise, to be light in rooms full of counterfeit, to be truth where lies have been normalized. But first, He needed to empty you of the need to be liked. He needed to remove every false identity. He needed to silence every insecure voice that still clung to the old version of you. And now, that voice is quiet because you no longer serve the crowd. You serve the King. And when the King sends you out, it won't look like what the world expects. You may not have the biggest platform. You may not go viral, but your words will shift atmospheres. Your prayers will crack open regions. Your presence will disrupt spiritual slumber, because it's not about how loud you are, it's about how rooted you are. And you, chosen one, are deeply rooted now, rooted in truth, rooted in identity, rooted in love. You are the storm the enemy didn't expect, not because you fought loud, but because you bowed low, not because you gained the approval of man, but because you walked with the fear of the Lord, not because you had every answer, but because you stayed when it was uncomfortable, you obeyed when it made no sense, and you trusted when all you had left was tears. That kind of trust becomes legacy. That kind of trust makes demons tremble. That kind of trust draws heaven closer. So don't second-guess yourself now. Don't shrink because others don't understand your journey. Don't downplay your process because it doesn't fit someone else's timeline. You've been processed by the Potter himself. You've been baptized in hiddenness. And now, you carry holy fire, not for clout, for calling, not for image, for intercession, not for self, for souls. Chosen one, you've been quiet long enough, but it was never silence for silence's sake. It was silence for sanctification. And now that the work is nearing its completion, the roar inside you is awakening. Chosen one, the roar inside you is not just a sound. It's a summons, a divine release after years of being restrained, reshaped, and rebuilt in the secret place. This roar isn't born from bitterness. It's not vengeance. It's not noise. It is authority. It is the voice of one who has been with God. It is the sound of surrender that survived the silence. It's what happens when a soul has been so crushed and so consecrated that it no longer cares about applause, only assignment. You were silenced so you could be sanctified. You were hushed by heaven, not to be forgotten, but to be formed. And now, God is saying, speak, not with volume, but with vision, not with force, but with fire, not to echo what's already been said, but to release what's never been uttered. You carry revelation forged in wilderness flames, wisdom that was not learned through books, but burned into you through betrayal, heartbreak, and waiting. You are no longer a student of survival. You are a steward of the sacred. That's why the wilderness lasted so long. God was not just testing you, He was trusting you. Trusting that you wouldn't manipulate the oil. Trusting that you wouldn't dilute the glory. Trusting that you would not turn your pain into a performance. And now that you've proven faithful, even when it cost you everything, He is calling you forward. But chosen one, even now, don't run ahead. Just because the release is near doesn't mean the rush is holy. This next step is too costly for you to walk into it recklessly. Listen for His voice. He's still whispering in the quiet. He's still leading in the pause. He's still refining you in this final stretch. And the next assignment won't look like the last, because this time, you're not stepping out as the broken one. You're stepping out as the burning one, the one who came through fire and didn't lose their flame, the one who walked through abandonment and didn't lose their ability to love, the one who waited longer than anyone knew and didn't lose their reverence. You are not just healed. You are holy. You are not just stronger. You are sanctified. You are not just wiser. You are washed in wonder. And you don't need to convince anyone. The ones assigned to your voice will recognize the glory before you ever open your mouth, because the weight of your life will speak louder than any introduction. The fragrance of your obedience will be undeniable. People will feel it. Rooms will shift. Darkness will retreat. not because you're powerful, but because you're possessed by the presence of God. That presence costs something. It costs everything, and you've paid the price through every season of silence, through every unanswered prayer, through every door that slammed shut in your face, through every night you felt like giving up but chose worship instead. That price is not forgotten. That oil is not wasted. And now, heaven is preparing the release. But I need you to understand, this release is not for you. It's for the ones you were trained to reach. The ones who are still stuck in caves of shame, still bound by lies, still drowning in loneliness. You were never just being hidden for your own sake. You were being refined to become a bridge, a midwife, a living testimony of what happens when someone says yes and never lets go, even when it hurts. Chosen one, your life is the message. Your scars are the sermon. Your survival is the strategy. And what you carry cannot be measured in likes or followers or applause. It's measured in fruit. Fruit that will remain. Fruit that will nourish others. Fruit that was grown in the shadows of your deepest pain. That's the kind of harvest heaven is releasing now. But don't be surprised if it comes quietly, because God doesn't always reveal glory with a spotlight. Sometimes He releases it with a whisper. Sometimes He sends you not to a stadium, but to a single soul. Sometimes He anoints your hands not for the masses, but for the one who's bleeding in silence the same way you once did. Do not measure your impact by the size of your audience. Measure it by the depth of your obedience, because that's where the glory flows, from the altar of obedience, from the stillness of surrender, from the wilderness you refused to curse. That's the fire you carry now, and it cannot be quenched. It cannot be imitated. It cannot be bought. It was formed in secret. It was sealed in suffering. And now it is being stirred. The Spirit of the Lord is hovering over you again. You can feel it in your chest, that sacred flutter, that trembling knowing, that holy ache. It's not nervousness. It's not fear. It's destiny waking up. It's the breath of God preparing to release through you. Chosen one, stay in this posture. You are still in training, but you're no longer in hiding. Chosen one, you are still breathing in the quiet where others would have screamed. You are still standing where others would have collapsed. You are still believing when logic says you should have walked away by now. And that is what sets you apart. Not perfection, not performance, but perseverance. The kind of perseverance that only heaven sees. The kind that happens when your heart is bleeding, but your spirit whispers, "Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." You have lived those moments, not once, but over and over again. And each time, your yes cut deeper. Each time, your surrender peeled away another layer of self. And each time God said, "This one is mine, chosen one. You are His, fully, wholly, eternally." And being His doesn't mean you get a smooth path. It means you get a sacred one, a road paved with mystery, lined with silence, yet drenched in glory. It means you walk alone sometimes, but never without purpose. You sit in rooms where your spirit doesn't fit, not because you're broken, but because you're being built for something beyond what their eyes can see. You walk away from things that sparkle because you've been in the fire and you know what real gold costs. You don't settle. You can't settle. Not anymore. You've tasted the holiness of isolation. You've heard the whisper that changed your trajectory. You've been broken in the wilderness, and now you're rising from it with a weight that only heaven can measure. But the world still won't understand. They'll try to categorize you, brand you, label you. They'll wonder where you came from. They'll ask how you carry such wisdom, such fire, such clarity. But they'll never understand the cave. They weren't there. They didn't see the nights you couldn't speak, the mornings you woke up asking God to just get you through one more day. They didn't see the altar in your closet, the pillow soaked in tears, the fasts that nobody knew about, the spiritual warfare that tried to crush your lungs as you declared scripture through the fear. They didn't see how many times the enemy said, "Quit," and you whispered back, "I still trust him." That trust, chosen one, that's your crown. That's your authority. That's the fragrance that precedes you now. And it's not artificial. It's not charisma. It's not hype. It's holy. People will start to notice, but not because you're promoting yourself. They'll feel it. Something in you will stir something in them. Not your words, not your posture, but your presence. Because presence cannot be faked. And what you carry now is the presence of one who has walked with God in the furnace. You are the evidence that survival isn't the goal. Transformation is. And you've been transformed. Not with a spotlight, but with a scalpel. Not with applause, but with pruning. Not with platforms, but with pruning shears, cutting away every lie, every layer of pride, every false identity. And now you're standing, clothed in glory, draped in reverence, walking in steps that are no longer yours. Your life is not your own. Your future is not random. Your voice is not for entertainment. You have become a trumpet in the hands of God, a vessel refined, a flame that burns, not from talent, but from testimony. Do you understand the magnitude of what's resting on you now? It's why you feel the weight in your chest. It's why your sleep feels shallow. It's why you wake up with vision on your lips and conviction in your bones. You are in transition. The veil is thinning. The heavens are closer than they've ever been. You are standing between what was and what will be, and all of heaven is holding its breath. Because you didn't quit in the cave. You didn't bow to bitterness. You didn't sell your soul to be seen. And now, God will see to it that what He placed inside of you comes forth, but not all at once. He's too intentional for that. It will come in waves, in moments, in divine instructions, in quiet whispers that unlock doors no man can shut, in the tears you'll shed when your obedience touches someone's life, and they say, "How did you know what I was going through?" You'll know, because you went through it too, because you bled for this, because you died for this, because you waited for this, and the one who waited well walks with weight. That's who you are now. You walk differently. You see differently. You discern what others miss, and you no longer doubt that you were chosen, because the cave taught you, the fire baptized you, and the silence anointed you. Chosen one, what's coming is not just your reward, it's your responsibility, and heaven is trusting you to carry it with reverence. Chosen one, you have not been walking through this sacred isolation just to survive it. You have been walking through it to become something that could never be built in the public eye. What heaven constructed in your shadows was never meant for shallow recognition. It was meant to carry the weight of eternity. You thought God was being silent, but in reality, He was speaking the loudest, just not with words, but with fire. The fire that shaped your character, the fire that refined your intentions, the fire that burned away everything that could not walk with you into the next chapter. You didn't just endure it, you let it transform you. And now, chosen one, you carry glory. This isn't about influence. It's not about what the world will say when they finally see you step into the places God is calling you to. It's about what the Spirit sees when you kneel alone in your room, whispering, "God, just use me." You don't even realize that the prayers you thought were forgotten became blueprints in heaven. You were praying in a language only angels understood. You were speaking life over things that looked dead. And now, things are stirring. Resurrection is near. Not just for your dreams, but for your destiny. You are not the same person who entered the fire. You have been branded in the Spirit, marked by obedience, sealed with authority. But don't lose your posture. This next season will open doors. But don't walk through them unless the same fire that met you in the silence goes before you. Your wilderness wasn't just about waiting. It was about listening. And what you learned in that stillness must lead your every step from here on. Don't return to noise just because the silence became uncomfortable. Don't rush into rooms that shine with opportunity, but lack the fragrance of the Holy One. The chosen are not led by crowds. They are led by cloud and fire. You must stay close to the cloud. You must move only when it moves, because this is where the enemy will try again, not with attack, but with applause, not with pain, but with platforms. You've been trained for warfare, but now you must be trained for favor. And favor, chosen one, can destroy those who haven't first been emptied. But you have. The cave ensured it. God made sure there was nothing left for you to lean on but Him. That is your protection now. That is your strength. You no longer need to force doors open. You don't have to scream to be heard. You just have to follow the oil. The same oil that was crushed out of you in the silence will now guide you. Let it speak. Let it pour. Let it lead. And when they ask where you've been, don't answer with bitterness. Answer with reverence. Tell them, I've been in the fire, and I met God there, because that's what happened. You didn't just lose friends, you gained intimacy. You didn't just get misunderstood, you got redefined. You didn't just sit in silence, you sat in sacredness. You now carry the blueprint of heaven's movement. You now walk with the rhythm of a different kingdom. You don't move quickly anymore, because you've learned the cost of rushing. You don't speak everything you hear, because you know the weight of a word from God. You don't need to be first or famous or followed, because you've already been found by the only one who matters. Your identity is not in your reach. It's in your roots, and your roots run deep, planted in the soil of surrender. So go ahead, chosen one. Rise, not in noise, but in knowing, not in performance, but in presence, not to be seen, but to see. What God is doing now, you were made for, you've been equipped for, you've been made ready, in secret. Don't fear the release. Don't sabotage the blessing. Don't question the timing. You've already been processed. You've already been proven. Now you must walk, not to arrive, but to reveal. Not yourself, but Him. Because all along, this was never about your story. It was about His glory. And now, chosen one, the glory rests upon you. Chosen one, now that the glory rests upon you, you must walk with holy caution. Not fear, no. Fear has no place in the one who's been in the furnace and came out walking with the fourth man, but reverence, deep, trembling, sacred reverence that must never leave your steps, because what you carry now isn't light, it isn't common, it isn't explainable, it's the residue of encounters, it's the fragrance of long nights with the Holy Spirit, it's the sound of silence that shaped you, it's the groaning of the Spirit that became your language when words failed. People will start to notice. They'll say you've changed. They'll say there's something different in your eyes. They'll wonder what happened to you, and you'll smile quietly, because what happened wasn't loud, it wasn't posted, it wasn't public, it was sacred. God pulled you close and rewrote your name in the wilderness. He stripped you, not to shame you, but to sanctify you. He removed what you thought you needed, because he knew what he placed in you needed room to rise. And now it is rising, slowly, powerfully, sovereignly. But don't forget the posture that brought the oil. Stay low, stay hidden in him, stay surrendered, because the enemy does not fear a chosen one who is gifted. He fears a chosen one who is yielded. You have become a threat, not because of your voice, but because of your silence, because of your private yes, because you obey when it doesn't benefit you, because you still worship even when your heart is tired, because you still fast, still pray, still intercede for people who don't even know your name. That's the posture that moves heaven. That's the life God trusts with revival. You thought revival would look like fire falling on stages. But the real revival, it began when fire fell in your closet, when tears turned to groans and groans turned to glory, when you laid on the floor and said, God, I have nothing left, but you can have what remains. That was revival. That was resurrection. That was the moment heaven leaned in and said, now I can use this one. And he is. You don't even see the ripple yet, but heaven does. With every obedient step, you are parting spiritual waters. With every whispered prayer, you are shaking unseen walls. With every surrendered, not my will, you are aligning earth with eternity. That's what isolation taught you, to stop looking for outward signs and start trusting the inward stirrings, to walk with God even when it feels like walking blind, to believe without seeing, to serve without spotlight, to pour without applause. And now, you are not just anointed, you are available. God doesn't need perfection, he needs availability. And you, chosen one, have been made ready, not polished, not popular, but pure. Purity isn't perfection. It's alignment. It's an undivided heart. It's a vessel that says, God, I'll go even if no one else goes with me. I'll stay even when it's uncomfortable. I'll speak even if my voice shakes. And you have spoken. You've declared truth in secret. You've prophesied over your own dry bones. You've sung when you wanted to scream. You've blessed others when you had nothing left to give. And now, God is about to pour back, not in the way the world expects, but in the way your spirit has been craving. Clarity, direction, acceleration. You're not waiting anymore. Chosen one, you're walking. With every step, things are aligning. People are being positioned. Doors are opening. Resources are being released. Not because you chased them, but because you became what God could trust. You are the door now. You are the well. You are the altar that carries holy fire. And wherever you go, things will shift. Atmospheres will bow. Demons will flee. Hearts will melt. But it must be Him. always Him. Let Him keep the pen. Let Him lead the dance. Let Him breathe on every assignment, because you've seen what it's like to be emptied of everything. Now you'll see what it's like to be filled with Him alone. This is your release, but also your refinement. This is your moment, but also your mantle. This is your stepping out, but only because you first stepped in. Chosen one, never forget where the oil came from. Chosen one, the oil on your life didn't come from a stage. It came from the secret place. It came from silence so heavy, it pressed on your chest like the weight of grief. It came from nights where you questioned if you were still in God's will, because nothing made sense anymore. It came from surrender, the kind that ripped you apart and built you again with hands that trembled under His glory. It came from the uncelebrated, the unseen, the unknown. And that's why it's real. That's why it's pure. That's why it flows without striving. You no longer have to chase rooms. You no longer have to network your way into your assignment. You don't have to prove the call, because God doesn't crown those who market themselves. He crowns those who empty themselves. And you, chosen one, have been emptied. You have been broken in the presence of the King, and now you're rising, but not with pride, with reverence, with fear and trembling, with the kind of authority that cannot be manufactured, only entrusted. And He trusts you now, not because you did everything right, but because you stayed, because you waited, because you said, God, even if you slay me, I'll still worship. And the worship you did, in the valley, in the cave, in the stillness so loud, it nearly drowned your hope. But even when your hope flickered, your spirit kept reaching. You didn't stop praying. You didn't stop believing. And now, the shift you've been waiting for is already happening. But let me speak this into your soul. Do not lose the sacred for the sake of success. You're not entering into a season of reward. You're entering into a season of responsibility. And your ability to remain small in your own eyes is what will protect the oil. The moment you crave the spotlight more than the secret place is the moment the fire begins to fade. But you, chosen one, were never made to burn out. You were made to burn through the noise, burn through the confusion, burn through the culture, burn through the counterfeit. You are a holy fire starter, and fire doesn't ask permission. It just is. You don't need to become something else to walk into what's next. You already are who God has been forming all this time. The you that came from the wilderness is more real than any version you've known before. You don't need more strategy. You need more stillness. You don't need more validation. You need more vision. You don't need more strength. You just need more surrender. Because surrender is strength in the kingdom. The world says power is in control, but heaven says power is in yielding. And you have yielded again and again, even when it hurt, even when the yielding felt like dying. And now you live not just a life of breath, but a life of fire, of clarity, of conviction, of purity. And you will walk with weight, quiet weight, invisible weight, eternal weight. Some will not understand. Some will walk away, not because they're evil, but because they were only assigned to your wilderness, not your promise. Bless them and release them. You don't need everyone to come with you into this new territory. You only need the presence of the one who called you, and His presence is already ahead of you, preparing the way, softening the hearts, aligning the timing. You've stepped into the edge of something holy. Let your spirit perceive it. This is not breakthrough like before. This is divine entrance into the realm of fulfillment. The time where what was hidden becomes seen. What was planted begins to sprout. What was whispered in the cave becomes a trumpet in the courts. You are not striving for a voice anymore. You are becoming the echo of God's own voice. That's what happens when you walk with Him long enough. You don't just repeat what He says. You become what He says. You are His word made fire. You are His whisper made thunder. You are His seed made fruit. And when you walk into the rooms He's assigned to you, you won't have to say a word to shift the atmosphere. Your presence will be enough. Not because of you, but because of what's resting on you. Because of who's walking with you. Because of what you survived to carry this. Chosen one, you are the evidence that the cave was not the end. It was the beginning of something too glorious to fit in human plans. Chosen one, now that the cave has released you and the silence has spoken its last sacred word, you stand on holy ground. Not because the terrain has changed, but because you have. You are no longer the version of yourself that entered the wilderness. You no longer walk with uncertainty, no longer bow to fear, no longer ache for acceptance in places that could never hold your calling. You've been undone and rebuilt by the hand of the Almighty, and there's no going back. The isolation didn't just shape you, it sealed you. You are sealed for sacred things. There is a calm in your spirit now, the kind that cannot be stolen, a knowing that doesn't need confirmation, a quiet authority that flows from having been with God, not just for God. That's what separates the chosen. Not gifting, not following, not applause, but the history written between their scars and His presence. And now, heaven speaks one final word over you. It was never punishment. It was preparation. Every moment of loneliness was divine alignment. Every door that closed was divine preservation. Every delay was heaven saying, "Wait, I'm building more than you asked for." And now, you walk out of that hidden place carrying glory, carrying peace, carrying purpose that cannot be shaken. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are ready. So rise, chosen one, quietly, boldly, faithfully, and walk into the assignment. Walk with the rhythm of one who knows that heaven walks beside you. Don't explain. Don't defend. Don't rush. Just walk, because now you are the evidence that isolation was not the end, but the sacred beginning of everything God had planned. Welcome out of the cave. Now go and burn.